Start menu shutdown. You've done this 1,000 times without thinking about it. Click the start button, click the power icon, click shut down. Windows takes a moment, closes everything you have open, and the screen goes black. Mac users do the same thing from the Apple menu. It feels like one click, but there's a lot happening behind it. Every open program gets a signal to save its work and close background services shut down in order. And only once everything's checked in does the operating system tell the hardware it's safe to cut the power. It's the slowest way to turn off a PC. It's also the safest. Alt plus F4 or Control plus Alt plus Delete power menu. Minimize every window first, or this trick won't work. Now hit Alt and F4 together. If nothing's open, Windows skips straight to a shutdown box instead of closing a program. Same power menu as the Start button, just faster to reach if your hands never leave the keyboard. Control plus Alt plus Delete gets you there a different way. It used to be the 3-finger salute for force quitting a frozen PC, but today it opens a screen with Task Manager, Lock, Sign Out, and a power icon tucked in the corner. 2 shortcuts, 2 different doors, same room on the other side. The physical power button, short press. Tap it once and let go. On a modern PC, this button isn't a switch, it's a doorbell. Pressing it sends a signal to the motherboard, and the motherboard passes that signal to the operating system, which then runs through the exact same shutdown routine as clicking Start and Shut Down. Windows or Mac OS gets the chance to close your programs properly and save your work before the power actually cuts. That's true whether you're on a laptop, a desktop, or a gaming rig. The button itself does almost nothing. It's the software listening on the other end that decides what happens next. Command line shutdown. Same job. 3 different accents. On Windows, open a command prompt and type shutdown/S. The machine gives you a moment, then powers down. No mouse required. On a Mac, it's sudo shutdown-H now in terminal. The sudo forcing you to confirm you're really the one in charge here. Linux users type systemctl power off. The modern replacement for the old shutdown command most distros still quietly support underneath. All 3 do exactly what clicking a power icon does. They just skip the icon entirely and talk straight to the operating system in its own language. For anyone managing more than one PC at a time, this is the shutdown that actually scales. Task Scheduler or cron. What if you want your PC to shut itself off without you touching anything at all? On Windows, Task Scheduler lets you set a trigger, every night at 11 p.m. say, and an action, which is just that same shutdown/S command from before, now running on autopilot. Linux and Mac users do the same thing with cron, a much older tool that's been quietly running scheduled jobs on computers since the 1970s. You write one line specifying the time and the command, and the machine remembers so you don't have to. Remote shutdown. Sometimes the PC you want to turn off isn't the one in front of you. IT admins do this constantly, sending a shutdown command over the network to a machine sitting in another building, or even another country. On Windows, shutdown/S/M/computer name targets a specific PC by name instead of the one you're typing on. SSH does the same job on Linux and Mac, letting you log into a remote machine and run shutdown as if you were sitting right in front of it. Even remote desktop counts. You're staring at someone else's screen, clicking their start menu, and their PC shuts down hundreds of miles away. Distance stopped being a factor a long time ago. Sleep versus hibernate versus hybrid sleep. None of these actually turn your PC off, and that's the whole point. Sleep freezes everything exactly where you left it and keeps it stored in RAM, so waking up takes seconds, but RAM needs constant power to hold onto anything, which is why sleep still drains a laptop battery overnight. Hibernate solves that by writing the exact same snapshot to your hard drive instead, then cutting power completely. Waking up takes longer, but nothing gets lost if the battery hits 0. Hybrid sleep does both at once, saving to RAM for a fast wake and to disk as a safety net, which is why it's the default on most desktop PCs. 3 different bets on the same question. How much speed are you willing to trade for safety? Closing the laptop lid. You'd think closing the lid is its own shutdown method. It isn't. It's just a trigger, and what happens next depends entirely on a setting most people never touch. By default, closing the lid tells Windows or Mac OS to go to sleep, which is why your laptop can still get warm inside a closed bag. Dig into the power settings though, and you can tell it to hibernate instead, or even do nothing at all, letting it run full tilt with the screen off. Some people set it to actually shut down completely. The lid itself is just a switch. It's the operating system underneath deciding what that switch actually means. BIOS/UEFI power off signal. Before Windows or macOS even loads, there's another layer working underneath both of them. Firmware called BIOS, or its modern replacement, UEFI. This is what actually talks to your hardware directly. The fans, the drives, the power supply. When the operating system finishes its shutdown routine, it doesn't cut the power itself. It hands off one final instruction to the firmware using a standard called ACPI, telling it, "We're done. You can go now." UEFI is the one that actually flips the switch on the power supply. Your OS makes the decision. The firmware underneath it carries out the order. The power button, long press. Hold the power button down for about 4 or 5 seconds, and everything changes. This isn't a doorbell anymore. It's an override. The motherboard stops waiting for a polite response from the operating system and forces the power off directly, skipping every step we've talked about so far. No closing programs, no saving files, no handoff to the firmware. It exists for exactly one reason: a frozen PC that isn't responding to anything else. That speed comes at a cost, though. Anything you hadn't saved is gone, and cutting power mid-write to a drive can occasionally corrupt a file. It's the button you reach for when every other option has already failed. The PSU rocker switch. Flip a desktop around and you'll find a small rocker switch on the back of the power supply itself, usually marked with a 0 and a 1. This one skips the motherboard entirely. The front power button only ever sends a request. This switch physically breaks the connection between the wall outlet and every component inside the case. Flip it to 0, and there's no signal, no shutdown routine, no firmware handoff, just power that stops arriving. It's mostly there for safety, letting technicians work inside a case with zero risk of it powering on by accident. Laptops don't have one, desktops usually do, and almost nobody ever touches it. Group policy shutdown. Picture an office with 300 PCs, and someone needs every single one of them shut down before a scheduled maintenance window tonight. Nobody's walking around clicking start on 300 machines. On a Windows domain, an IT admin sets a group policy, a rule pushed out from one central server to every computer connected to it, telling all of them to shut down at a specific time. No exceptions. It's the same idea as Task Scheduler, just scaled up from one PC to an entire building or an entire company. Thermal or hardware protection shutdown. Every method so far started with a person deciding to turn the PC off. This one doesn't. Inside your PC, sensors are constantly watching the temperature of the processor, and if it climbs past a safe limit, usually from a failing fan or a room that's just too hot, the hardware steps in on its own. No warning message, no chance to save your work, just an instant power cut before anything melts. The same protection kicks in for a failing power supply or a dying component, cutting power the moment something looks dangerous. It's not a shutdown you choose, it's the one your PC chooses for you, because sometimes staying on is the actual risk. UPS-triggered shutdown. Picture the power going out mid-task, with no warning at all. A UPS, an uninstalled battery sitting between your PC and the wall, keeps the machine running for a few extra minutes once that happens, just long enough for software on your PC to notice the outage and step in. That software doesn't just wait for the battery to die, it triggers a proper shutdown automatically, closing programs and saving files the same graceful way as clicking start and shut down, just with a UPS pulling the trigger instead of a person. Unplugging the wall would just cut the power outright. This is what turns a power outage into a controlled shutdown instead of a corrupted file. Voice or smart home trigger. Hey Siri, shut down my computer. Say it. And somewhere behind the scenes, a voice assistant translates your words into the exact same command you'd type into a terminal. No keyboard, no mouse, no button at all. Smart home routines take it a step further. Set one up so that saying "good night" turns off the lights, locks the door, and shuts down your PC in a single sentence, all three triggered from one phrase. Under the hood, nothing about this is new. It's still just shutdown/S or its equivalent, running the moment your voice tells it to. What's different isn't the shutdown, it's who's giving the order. Unplugging at the wall/smart plug cut. No signal, no warning, no chance to say goodbye. Just the power gone. Pulling the plug from the wall does the same thing as the PSU rocker switch, cutting power at the absolute source. Except now you don't even need to be standing next to the PC. A smart plug does this remotely, letting an app or a schedule cut power to a machine from across the house, or across the country. It's the crudest method on this entire list, and also one of the most final. Every other shutdown gave the operating system a chance to close things properly first. This one doesn't ask permission. It just stops. Battery/CMOS removal. Some problems don't go away with a shutdown, no matter how hard you cut the power. When a laptop is completely frozen and even the long press won't respond, the last resort is pulling the battery out entirely. On older laptops with a removable one, that's an instant, absolute stop. Desktops have their own version of this, tucked deep inside the case. The CMOS battery. A small coin cell sitting on the motherboard that keeps the clock running and BIOS settings saved even when the PC is fully unplugged. Pull that one out and the machine forgets its own settings, sometimes reverting straight back to factory defaults. It's less a shutdown at this point and more a full reset. Twist finale. Is your PC ever really off? Even after all 17 of those, there's a good chance your PC is still drawing power. Modern motherboards keep a small trickle running to the USB ports even when the machine looks completely dead. That's how a keyboard shortcut or a phone plugged in overnight can still charge. Wake on LAN takes it further, letting a single packet sent over the network wake a shut-down PC back to life without anyone touching it. Windows' default fast startup doesn't even fully shut down the kernel. It hibernates it and calls it a shutdown. The only method on this entire list that guarantees zero power anywhere in that machine was the PSU switch, or pulling the plug. Everything else just agreed to sleep a little deeper.